But no one is testing for traces of other species such as cat, rat or dog.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at the biggest food and fast food scandals to hit Britain.
There are now 273 confirmed cases in the UK, 17 new cases today.
KFC runs out of chicken. Back in 2018, the nation was blighted by a lack of bargain buckets at KFC. Hundreds of branches up and down the country were struck by a shortage of chicken, all because KFC had changed its delivery company to DHL.
The chicken shortage, which has forced KFC to close hundreds of its outlets in the UK, is our next story.
DHL just couldn't handle the complex logistics of delivering chicken to KFCs up and down the country from one warehouse, and eventually the chain had to revert to its old firm.
And the contract changed last week. They had months to plan for it, and the chicken is stuck in the warehouse.
Thankfully, nobody died as a result of the chicken shortage, because all human beings can go more than 1 week without fried chicken. But it was still a major, if bizarre, issue at the time.
Will I get a free rice box then for coming down? Because I've had to go to Burger King.
1996 E. coli outbreak. This is still the deadliest outbreak of E. coli the UK has ever seen, leading to 21 deaths in 1996. Nearly 500 people across Scotland were affected because a butcher, John Barr, wasn't registered properly and therefore not inspected. Investigators also said that Barr continually lied to them while the source of the outbreak was being investigated, which meant more contaminated meat was sold and more people were affected. It was largely the elderly who died from the illness, with many families in Lanarkshire struck by the tragedy, and all because existing regulations weren't followed. The only silver lining is that the UK has had no other E. coli outbreak this deadly in the years since. Rotten pork. Multiple supermarkets and fast food chains were affected by this issue in early 2023, when a supplier was able to sell rotten pork to them. The supplier was never named, but Outlet Farmers Weekly, which conducted the investigation, said that until 2020, a, quote, top food manufacturer had been flogging rotten meat. The issue was so widespread that there's a good chance you may have eaten rotten meat if you lived in the UK at the time, and weren't a vegetarian. Luckily, it doesn't seem like any disease outbreak happened as a result of this. The chaos over Brexit and the pandemic has been blamed by some on standards being briefly relaxed, though the FSA now wants even tighter regulations. Food waste. Each year, hundreds of thousands of tons of food are sent to landfill in the UK by major supermarkets.
This is not food that the supermarket simply didn't manage to sell in time. In fact, this is food that didn't make it onto the shelves in the first place.
Investigations have shown time and time again that supermarkets just aren't doing enough to combat this problem, which is a major environmental issue. In 2021, less than 9% of supermarkets' extra food was donated to food banks, at a time when the public is becoming more and more reliant on them.
Is that we believe that is just over 1% of the in-date, fit for human consumption food that could be passed to organisations like us and be fed to people in need.
We could be feeding millions of people each year, with more and more otherwise going hungry during the cost of living crisis. But instead, all this food, much of it still good to eat, is being thrown away and left to rot. Shortages. While in many ways, UK supermarkets have such an abundance of food that they send it to landfill, in others, they're not able to keep stock on the shelves.
But campaigners say money is being lost in overly complex supply chains where too many people take a slice along the way.
It seems that nowadays there are constant shortages of vital products, including meat, fruit and vegetables. A lot of people have blamed Brexit for this, with international trading becoming harder following the UK's departure from the EU, though others have pointed out that shortages happened before Brexit too.
Part of the problem there is that it's quite a fragmented industry and it isn't able to command the price that it needs to be able to command to be able to continue to produce, and that's why.
But the UK's policy on supermarkets and food contracts have also been blamed, as it can be difficult for supermarkets to change suppliers to get what they need.
One of the benefits of Brexit was supposed to be cheaper food, and yet here we are.
Whatever the cause, it doesn't look like there's going to be a solution anytime soon. pret-a-manger allergies.
Every time you choose food, publicly available, commercially available, you are making a life or death decision.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that this story has highlighted for people.
In 2016, a 15-year-old girl very tragically passed away after eating a sandwich from Pret-a-Manger containing ingredients she was allergic to. The girl, Natasha, had many severe allergies, and her parents meticulously checked the packaging of the baguette before she ate it, but it contained an allergen that wasn't listed on the packet, which led to her death from anaphylaxis.
So there was information on this wrapper?
There was information, but confusing information.
Right.
Her parents campaigned for years to have a new law introduced, and in 2021 it was, requiring all fresh food made on a shop or restaurant's premises to have a full ingredient list.
But Pret don't claim that there was any mention of sesame either on the label or on the sticker. The point is they accept.
Hopefully, an avoidable tragedy like this won't happen again. Foot and mouth outbreak.
There's growing opposition in the parts of the country worst affected by foot and mouth disease to the new government plans for mass slaughter of healthy animals.
The UK has had many outbreaks of foot and mouth disease over the years, notably in 1967 and 2007. But those outbreaks were both small compared to the devastating contagion that spread through the country's livestock in 2001.
I don't like any of this, but I recognise that we have to eradicate the disease, and this means hard measures.
There were 2,000 reported cases of the disease, but foot and mouth has to be contained by widespread culling, which led to the slaughter of 6 million animals. The crisis was so serious that it affected not just the UK's food and agricultural industries, but also tourism, because so much of the countryside was locked off to contain the disease's spread.
They say that up to now, when infections have been discovered, it's taking several days to deal with it, to slaughter herds, to dispose of the bodies.
You may remember seeing the horrific images of livestock burning on television at the time. Bernard Matthews.
I spent most of my life turkey farming up here in Norfolk. I'm Bernard Matthews, and this little booty is the Matthews 1¼ pound turkey roast.
This poultry producer became the epicenter of a bird flu outbreak in 2007. Specifically, it was the H5N1 strain of influenza, which was one of the rare types of avian flu that can affect humans, in some cases severely. More culling was undertaken to prevent it from spreading to other farms, since wild birds can easily spread bird flu between flocks. It turned out that the outbreak was largely because of regulations not being followed.
But that doesn't mean the virus can spread between people, at least not yet.
No humans contracted bird flu in this incident, but the damage to the company's reputation was severe, to the tune of tens of millions of pounds. Even today, it's hard to hear the name Bernard Matthews without thinking of bird flu. Horse meat.
British firms have been told to test all their processed beef products for traces of horse meat or pork within a week.
In many parts of the world, eating horse meat isn't taboo at all. Not so in the UK, which was hit hard by the 2013 horse meat scandal that affected all of Europe. Though large numbers of people were appalled at the idea of eating horse in the first place, the real issue was that the supply chain had clearly fallen apart, as the horse meat hadn't been declared. It was safe to eat, thankfully, but it should never have been in the products it was found in, notably beef lasagnas and burgers sold by Tesco and Findus.
Tests carried out in Ireland found horse DNA in a number of big brand name beef products. One, a Tesco value beef burger, contained as much as 29% horse meat.
Another issue was that many of the beef samples tested also contained pork, which would make them unfit for certain demographics to eat at all.
Findus built a trusted brand over generations, and it will take a long time to win back consumer confidence. This scandal will do great damage to the meat processing industry as a whole.
We publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Mad cow disease. In the mid-1980s, a previously unknown disease began appearing in cattle in the UK with a 100% mortality rate, diagnosed as BSE 2 years later. This went on for a decade before it became clear that the disease was able to affect humans, with contaminated meat being given not only to people, but also to zoos and other farms across the country. Because of the long period of inaction, the disease was able to spread around the world, and it was only after a long culling effort was undertaken that it was able to get under control. Over 4 million animals were slaughtered in the UK, and hundreds of people around the world have died as a result. Let us know in the comments which foods you have been put off for life.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.